Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where the fast eat the slow and the small eat the big. I love it when that happens, don't you? Maybe unless you're big. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you scale from 7 figures, which is good, to 8 and 9 figures, which is outstanding. Together, we supercharge revenue growth, create premium valuation, and craft a business that you're proud of and a life of impact and freedom that you love. Welcome to Prime Day, or, Tuesday. Actually, it is Prime Day as well. But who would have thought that a simple online bookseller would grow big enough to have their own sales holiday, to be able to say, this is Prime Day and everybody's going to come shopping at our place. In the vast ocean of businesses, size often seems synonymous with success. Certainly if you look at things like Prime Day, or if you pay attention to TechCrunch, big or small, established or startup, growth is, of course, what we all want. Sometimes the big fish with rock star investors, deep pockets, huge revenues, and sprawling networks often seem unbeatable. But size isn't everything. I write about that in my first book, Small Fish, Big Pond. Small companies can not only survive, but indeed thrive, even in waters that are full of larger competitors. Just like in the natural world, in business, it's not always the biggest fish that reigns. It's often the most adaptable, the quickest, the most innovative. Outwit, outswim, outlast. It wasn't too long ago that a giant company owned the graphic design market for a long, long time. Who was that? Well, of course, it was Adobe, right? Giant company. I bought their stuff year after year after year. It was expensive. A small SaaS company took on the giant. Melanie Perkins, Cliff Oberich, Cameron Adams created this company you've probably heard of called Canva, and completely shook up the space. And Canva was indeed a small fish, but they didn't attempt to outsize the competition. They didn't take them on head on. Instead, they focused on being more accessible, more user-friendly, listening to their customers, something that Adobe stopped doing a long, long time ago. Canva democratized design, took it from the top and made it accessible to everyone. They opened the doors for everyone, from students to business owners, to really become their own graphic designers. After all, why did it need to be hard or expensive or take a long time? That was one of the ways that Adobe locked up the market, is through cost and making it where it was accessible and, my gosh, hard to use. Holy moly. I mean, if you've used Adobe products, they're terrible for UI, and maybe they're better now. And if you get into the Adobe world and you learn how to do it, a lot of their stuff works the same, and maybe it's a little bit intuitive, but the learning curve is steep, and they locked up the market that way. But Canva didn't do that. Canva didn't outgrow the giants. They outsmarted them. They didn't take them head on. Canva swam circles around them. They used the strengths that they had, smaller size and scrappiness, to innovate faster and serve their customers better, a lot better. Today, they're a unicorn company, proving that being a small fish in a big pond can be a real big advantage. A chance to make a bigger splash. Now, I believe Melanie was the first woman-led unicorn startup, and they aren't done yet. You'll see them competing in the Office document space with Microsoft Office, Google Docs, things like that. And they're already way ahead of many others in AI. Keep an eye on Canva. We've seen a lot so far, and they've done some amazing things. They're not even close to done yet. Just wait. So as we delve into our conversation today, let's remember it's not about being the biggest fish. In the SaaS world, size is irrelevant. The small can eat the big, and regularly do. It's about being the most agile, the most adaptable, the one that outmaneuvers the giants regardless of their size. Outwit, outswim, outlast. And today's guest has done just that. He's been extremely smart, outmaneuvering the giants and proving that when it comes to finding treasure, the most innovative company gets the gold. If you're ready to raise your leadership game and outwit, outswim, outlast, check out today's sponsor. It's the book Small Fish, Big Pond, Building a World-Class Business That Swims Circles Around Competitors. So why do some SaaS companies achieve explosive growth while others sink into the depths? Why do some solutions inspire fierce loyalty while others are just interchangeable? And what can we as SaaS leaders learn from fish? Small Fish, Big Pond delivers powerful marketing and leadership lessons guaranteed to enhance your marketing message, wrap value around your clients, and guide their buying journey to conclude that your company is the only solution for them. It includes step-by-step frameworks and time-tested growth principles to attract ideal clients, convert them, and then transform them into your brand ambassadors. Pick up the print, ebook, or audio today. We do have a special deal going on right now at Amazon because it's Prime Day. You can learn more at smallfishbigpond.com or just hop right over to Amazon and pick it up however you'd like. The Kindle book might even be free. You should go check that out and see. Again, Amazon, Small Fish, Big Pond, building a world-class business that swims circles around competitors. Our expert guest last week was Nicholas Means, who leads the engineering team at SIM, helping create the building blocks to create delightful, just-in-time access workflows. Very cool. Such a great conversation. Outstanding insights on bringing projects in on time and budget and with happy team members and clients. Our founder on Tuesday last week, Independence Day, Freedom Day, was Charles Darrow, CEO and co-founder of Bzop, a process management software that gets us organized so that we can enjoy entrepreneurial freedom. And Charles knows a thing or two about leading international teams and doing some really cool things there. So if you missed either of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. My guest this week is somebody I have tremendous respect for, Kaz Otha. He is the CEO of Treasure Data. It's a leading consumer data platform. He started as the founder and chief technology officer and then moved into the CEO role. Kaz moved to America without even knowing how to speak English. And when he overcame that obstacle, majored in computer science, which is a difficult thing to do, learning a language, doing that. And during that time as professor, built the world's fastest supercomputer. It's like 500,000 computers combined into one. And Kaz was part of the team that built the file system for that. A longtime open source advocate, Kaz has made numerous contributions to open source software and was instrumental in developing the open source applications Fluentd, Embulk, and MessagePack. Kaz is also really deep into gaming, especially Fortnite. You can probably find him on there. Welcome, overcomer and all-around champion, Kaz Otha. Hey, Kaz, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
Love your background. It's fairly traditional. A lot of clients I work with, come up through the technical ranks. You were CTO for 12 years and have moved into the CEO role now.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your background and how that transition has been.
Sure. So I majored in computer science when I was in university. And my professor has built the world's fastest supercomputer at that time, which was an exciting project.
Yes.
And I was a part of the team to build the file system for that supercomputer, which means, there's a lot of data generated by those supercomputer, but then our system is trying to process that large amount of data, right? So that gave me an experience of handling large scale data set. And then, around when I was 25, I was nothing to lose. I couldn't speak any English, but come to the Silicon Valley and started this company called Treasure Data. And now it's an industry leading CDP, customer data platform company. So very interesting journey I had.
Yes. What was that like going to Silicon Valley? And you had the technical chops for sure, but then being in a different place and not speaking the language.
Yeah, it was a really, I would say, risky choice, but at the same time, I had nothing to lose, right? So I grew up with the family where, my parents ran their own business. So after the graduation, I started my first company in Japan. And that was a search engine company, but focused only on the Japanese market, right? And, I was a CTO at the time, but, we grew from like 3-4 people to 40 people after like 4-5 years. But then I just realized that, you know what, to run the software company, it's far better to be in Silicon Valley so that I have an access to all the greatest talents and, minds, and entrepreneurs, VCs and communities, right? And it was really lucky that I got a, co-founder who was in the VC industry for 5 years in Silicon Valley. And then, got to know each other and then started the company together. And it was really hard, for the first, I think 9 months, we pitched to 50 investors and they all denied. But, it's a process, right? You have to try out your ideas. And then lucky us, we got one legendary VC whose name is called Bill Tai. He invested into Treasure Data. And, since then, we had a lot of luck growing from just 3 people to now almost 700 people across the globe.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think it's a little bit more than luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, 50 pitches, that's a lot. And then, what was it, 51 or somewhere after that?
Yeah.
To get the yes.
So it was really lucky. Like Bill Tai is a really legendary VC who invested into company who does telecommunication software, which I thought everyone thought it's commodity. And the company is called Zoom. Okay. Right?
Right. That commodity.
Yeah, it's commodity, right? But they killed it.
Yes.
Bill Tai at the same time invested into this lady who just came from Australia and trying to find a co-founder. And that company became a company called Canva. It's like $20 billion plus valuation now. So I think Bill has this a really good instinct on what's going to come in the next wave. And then we were so lucky to have him as a first angel investor. And after Bill invested in, 10 people who he introduced, decided to invest into us.
That's great. So what was some of the feedback that you got as an early founder pitching to VCs? And what did they tell you that the first 50 that said no?
Yeah, so that was interesting. So initial idea of Treasure Data is, my background was large scale data processing, but that's only limited to the academic, environment or government, right? Or research institute. So my idea is why don't we bring this infrastructure into the cloud so that, when you are trying to analyze and process a lot of data, people needed to buy a bunch of hardware and software and networking gears and hire a bunch of PhDs to set it up. But our idea is why don't we bring everything into the cloud so that you can just subscribe the service and instantly start analyzing the data, right? That sounds like a, common idea now, but
right.
It was, 12, 13 years ago, a lot of VCs and angel investors Kaz, who will throw away the data to the cloud? I don't think that's going to happen. That was the feedback. And I'm glad we bet that risk. And now everyone is processing a lot of data in the cloud, right?
Right.
So that was an interesting feedback.
Yeah, I've been in the SaaS world before it was SaaS, it was ASP. When we started, and that was a major concern of where's my data going? How is it? What is the cloud? Is it secure? That kind of thing. And so a lot has changed. I mean, 12, 13 years is an eternity in the technical world.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, one advice that we've got from Bill Tai is you always have to fish at the big pond, on your background, right? If there's no market or there's no pond, you can't grow. So the data was growing exponentially. And after 11, 12 years, it's still growing exponentially, right? So unless the data set or, the industry or TAM is growing, whether I'm doing better or not, it's pulled by the market, right? So I think one genius part of his investment was he bet on the market, which definitely paid off.
Yes. Yeah, there's certainly no shortage of data.
Yeah.
You're competing with some of the maybe big players in the market space. And how was that to be able to come in, and how did you compete as a challenger against some of the bigger players?
Yeah, so just to clarify, we're offering the product called CDP, Customer Data Platform. So a lot of world's leading brands is collecting data into a platform and using this customer information to personalize a lot of marketing, sales, and also customer support activities by looking at this customer data, right? And, our competitor, maybe we have like 150 competitors in the market.
Only 150?
The big one, yeah, only 150, right? No shortage of it. And the big ones include like usual names like Salesforce has its own CDP product, Adobe CDP, Microsoft has its own, right? SAP, Oracle, and those are like big guys, right? But when it comes to if someone evaluates treasure data, we have an 85% win rate against those competitors. So it's just like deliver best product, right? And also, I think what I realize is all these large software vendor is trying to grow more suites and stack by themselves, right? So obviously, Salesforce wants everything from buying from Salesforce, right?
Right.
Adobe wants to have like hundreds of product, and then their customer will buy everything from Adobe, right? But if you go to enterprise, it's not the case, right? There's no company who can supply 100% of the software for your business. You buy a lot of solutions from a lot of vendors, right?
Right.
So the way we position against them is, treasure data comes in and then saying, you know what? You have Salesforce stack, Adobe stack, Oracle stack, IBM stack, AWS stack, Microsoft stack, everywhere, multiple divisions and countries, right? It's okay. Treasure data comes in as a Switzerland best of breed approach where we'll work with everyone and then we can integrate everything. That positioning is something no one can have if you're a big vendor because we want to lock in, right? We can help you avoiding locking, right? So that messaging and positioning is pretty much working as an underdog. And that's how we are actually winning the prospects and customers right now.
And that makes a lot of sense, especially the larger the organization. They don't want to be completely beholden to a single technology vendor, and they have that flexibility. So that makes a lot of sense. Is that an idea that you had coming to market or a co-founder, or how did you land on that positioning?
Yeah, so this is through a lot of learning, right? So we once tried to compete directly against them. But then, a lot of customers told us, you know what, I think this is the unique point you have, right? So I think it's not like we invented it. It's about like how customers told us.
That's really good feedback.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed. I mean, since you started the company, more and more data, more and more companies embracing the cloud and cloud usage. Where do you see the industry going over the next, say, 10 years, even 5 years?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, the market we're in is called MarTech, right? So within SaaS economy, there's lots of category. But first of all, we're in this like MarTech software category. What is interesting about this category is every year, there's like 1,000 or 2,000 vendors coming into this square. There's a famous, what's it called, MarTech chaos map. Last year, there was a 10,000 vendor. This year, there's like 11,000 vendor, right? So there's this like a chameleon era where all the SaaS companies get into the market. And then I would say, a lot of vendors getting confused, right? So why treasure data exists is the more you buy more solutions, your customer data gets siloed across all these small point solutions.
Right.
But if you buy platform products such as treasure data, you can consolidate some of this, at least from data perspective, right? So, with the economic downturn and a lot of, everyone's software budget is getting contracted, I would say, in next 2 years, 3 years, we'll probably see some of the contraction of okay, who actually solves the burning needs, right? There's no good to have anymore. you must solve big problems and you need to be in the fundamental solution. And that's kind of the game we're in as a SaaS industry, right? Before, the industry was growing 30-40%, as a time. But this year, according to Gartner, only 13% is the growth for the IT software spend. And if the pond is not growing, you start eating each other, right? So we'll probably see more competition stealing your customer, and then we need to steal the customer from your competition too, right? So I guess that will heat up a little bit. Now, talking about like 5 years, 10 years, last weekend, I've been playing around ChatGPT and its own API, right? And it's amazing about the technology, but when I interact, it feels like you can use for everything.
Yes.
But then if you put that into the actual questions customer is asking, a lot of questions ChatGPT is answering with the domain knowledge is wrong, right? So this is still an evolution of what we're doing with LLM, large language models. Now, if you look at our marketing technology, there's three fundamental components to it. One is data, and then we have decisioning, right? Okay, you have customer data, and you have to decide what to do with that customer. And then finally, it's content, right? So you have to decide which content you want to show to whom, when, using the data. So that's how, marketing technology works, right? And I see a huge disruption coming in on the content side, right? It's basically you can create videos, images, sound, and everything, the visuals, by just typing some like natural languages, and generative AI can generate it, right? And if you can generate, thousands of images or even millions of images, AI or data can optimize its creative or content by itself, right? There's a company who will generate the blog post based on some of the search keyword you want to optimize for, right? So I think since the human's perception, art is the thing, but now it's getting more generated by like machines and images, right? Every pixel is getting generated, not drawn anymore, right? So in this circumstance, I think it will be interesting how much of the work human is doing versus AI will be assisting or even disrupting it. That definitely is, I know everyone's talking about, but I'm feeling this as a firsthand in the MarTech category.
I think that's really interesting. How does that affect the consumer data and being able to process that with AI? Does it mean that we'll be served ads that are more relevant, or that AI will be able to predict what we want, or actions or activities?
Yeah, I think a lot of prediction is already there. Meaning, if you open up the Tesla, or if you even open up the Uber or Google Map, you sometimes will be amazed how much they know, right? Okay, here's where you want to go. I'm like, why do you know it, right? And from our customer base, based on the digital behavior, meaning right now, a lot of customers' behavior is now going into digital. And then according to McKinsey, 70% of customer behavior is now happening in the digital world. And then, when I'm talking with the automotive customer, previously prospects are visiting their dealership 6 to 7 times a week to make a purchase.
Right.
But now on average, it's 1.2 times. So they do a lot of research online, come to the dealership and make a purchase.
Right.
So that's happening for every single business right now. So to answer your question, I think if people are moving from more like offline behavior to online behavior, so understanding the customer behavior by data and then influence their decisions in the digital economy or digital channel is becoming much more important. And that's how you win against competitors, right? AI will further fuel that war, because if you can try out some more content and images and blogs and music to attract your, interest from your prospects, that's how you win against your competitors.
Do you think that waters down the content or the ads or the engagement? Or do you think that enhances it?
I would say it will enhance it. I think it will be more personalized. You can test out millions of patterns, right? Interesting audios and images and maybe visuals, right? So we'll see how this goes. But I already noticed that a lot of images and videos in the social world is actually getting generated by AI. So I already feels like, okay, this ads or banner is actually generated by machine, not human. So things are happening.
How do you know?
Well, sometimes people's hand is in different shape.
It does hands very poorly today.
Right. But it will be fixed. But, if you look at this carefully, then you will notice it. Right.
Oh, that's really interesting. We're definitely starting to see more and more of that. So in building your company, did you always have the same vision or were there pivots along the way?
It was a hard pivot happened around 2015 or 16. So the way it worked was we initially launched a product, which is cloud data analytics and processing infrastructure. And then Amazon, Google, Microsoft was releasing the same product. So they're trying to commoditize everything from the bottom, right? So around that time, we were in huge trouble. Customers were leaving, contract sizes becoming smaller because you can try out those products from $1. We're charging $3,000 a month. Why customer will go for us, right?
Right.
And so that was a huge trouble. And I still remember, but one of our angel investor introduced by Bill Tai was Jerry Yang, who was the founder of Yahoo search engine. He gave us an advice where, you have two options. One is, raise a bunch of money to fight against GAFA for the performance per price, but that's going to be really hard. The other way to look at it is you build some application on top of your platform, so add more value on top of it and selling this as more complete solution rather than infrastructure, like Amazon, Google, Microsoft's infrastructure cloud, right? So we took a pass and we interviewed a lot of customer and then realized that a lot of customer is using our product to analyze customer data. And marketing is the division who is asking a lot of access to the data. So that's why we built the marketing customer data analytics application on top of our general data platform. And we didn't know what to call this, but then, I also found out this little category called CDP, customer data platform. It was maybe, 8 to 10 vendors at the point, and then we decided to pivot into that company. And since then, our growth has been accelerated, acquiring a bunch of, exciting new logos together. And that was a hard pivot. I mean, even one VP who was leading the sales was trying to fire me because I was leading product and engineering. And all of a sudden I'm going into much different direction. He wasn't convinced around, right? So lots of human drama happened too.
Yeah, it definitely happens. That's really good advice to be able to really kind of raise the value and really smart on your part to talk with the clients and really understand how they're using it to determine what niche to go into.
Yeah. I guess a lot of startup wants to be the layer within the stack, but then it's actually really hard to sell because buyers are looking for complete solution for a certain problem.
Right.
So everyone's saying, oh, we're a platform. It's not, right?
I hear that all the time.
You need a platform to build more solutions, but you have to sell solution to solve the problem. The platform is the way to solve more problems once you're getting in, right? So that was kind of pivot we have done.
And that's interesting too, just some of your competitors, that's what they want to be, is that whole platform and you buy everything, the one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And so that's a differentiator for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So what lessons have you learned, in building treasure data?
Yeah. So around when we started the company, there was a similar concept coming out from, let's say, oh, there are 3 people startup popped up from, Google or ex Facebook team or, Stanford CS grad, right? And we were just 3 boring entrepreneur come to the country, and I couldn't even speak language, right? But, after 12 years, those companies are all gone. And I think the biggest lesson is like you always have to learn, understand from the customer, right? Build what they need, not like build what you want, right? I mean, you sometimes need some forward thinking, this is where the industry is going, and then bet on that. But fundamentally, what you do as a software company, and there's a customer, and we'll learn from them, and then we'll always think about next set of customer we can go, and then we do a little bit of stretch, but still keep learning from the customer, and then keep growing the TAM, like total addressable market, right? So it feels like a basic, but a lot of entrepreneur doesn't do it. You just build what you want to build, and then that's kind of what we observe, and then we just didn't do it.
Yeah, I see that all the time. Somebody builds a solution and goes looking for a market to sell it to, instead of what you're saying, go to the market, find out what they want, and then build that.
Yeah, exactly.
Very different approach. What else? What other lessons or what mistakes?
I have a bunch of mistakes.
Me too.
Lots of hires, like executives hire is always challenging, right? Head of sales, head of marketing, head of customer success, head of engineering, head of product. And we made all sorts of mistakes, right? I would say, we'll definitely make sure someone can come in and then, work out, but probably half of the case, they don't.
So why is
Even
that?
if they worked out, but why is it? It's probably, different things. In the initial 1 year or 2 years, we were always thinking like, if someone comes from Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're so clever and we'll figure it out, and they don't, because that's just not the face, right? We're scrappy. We will do everything. And
very different.
Those big company executives had all these infrastructure. They didn't realize it to make them successful, right? So we almost hired executive based on their background, big company, corporate experience, and it just didn't work out, right? And then, as we're growing, there's like different phases, right? Okay, first we'll do everything to go with this like product market fit, and then we need to go after maybe 5 logos to 10 logos. We're starting seeing some repeatability, right? And then we're scaling from like 10 companies to 100 companies, and then 1,000 companies, right? So each phase has its own different skill set. And, it's just like a brutal fact that every phase needs different type of leadership and people, right? So for us, a lot of mistake is like we're late on that change. Like, okay, this is what company needs, and this is the talent we have, and then we always need to assess, and sometimes the decision was too late. That's
really hard to do when you have somebody that is just not growing or doesn't have the capacity to grow to that next level.
Especially someone who is really successful, right? And then all of a sudden, you probably need different people, and it's a hard feeling, like, okay, we're succeeding together, and then all of a sudden we're having challenge with that particular functions or leader, right? Yeah.
So how do you do that as a leader? I mean, you've gone from, startup, you and co-founder to, what is it now, 1,000, now 700 people?
Yeah.
Probably pushing 1,000.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And I mean, so a significant ramp. So how have you continued to stay ahead of the curve and continue to develop as a leader?
Yeah. I mean, I think leadership skill set is something you can learn, right? So I have a coach who pushes me hard, and really good co-founder and board who advise me often, right? And I have to say, like, when I go to CEO conference of the similar size, I'm usually the youngest, right?
Sure.
And from diversity perspective too, I don't say this too often, but I'm probably the only Asian sometimes, especially Japanese, right? So I know I need to grow, right? So the only thing which makes me, I would say, okay, we can execute and then build a performant company is hire the best talent, right? So I'm always making sure, like, okay, assess the talent you have, and I always spend time to hire, next great talent in the industry, especially right now because of downturn. A lot of people in the competitor company also is probably thinking to leave if they're not going well, right? So that's kind of like, okay, well, there are some people who even reach out to me for the next possible opportunity. So it's a really interesting period of time. But, again, all I can do is I got to energize the company, build the visions and directions, give meanings to everyday's work, and bring the best talent. So that's how I make sure I can lead this organization.
How do you find the best talent? What do you have specific things that you do to attract and hire the best?
Yeah. So right now, Treasure Data is one interesting company which has like really high ratio of referrals, right? We don't pay a lot of commissions to the external recruiters.
That's
Instead,
good.
we're trying to have this culture of referring people, right? It's okay. We recently hired a CMO, but I posted to the company channel, you know what, we're hiring CMO. And you guys worked in the industry for 10 years, 20 years, just refer to me the best talent, right? That's how I found out the CMO who is joining soon, right? And obviously, if I feel like, okay, I probably need to explore outside of CDP industry, for example, I'm using recruiters or executive recruiting firm, so that, they're going to reach out to, every single SaaS company,
Right.
and then try to find the talent. And that's great feeling because you feel like, oh, we're actually finding the best one in the industry because we literally took a look at every single options for us, but it comes with the cost, right? So there's like a pros and cons.
Sure. Yeah, I think it is really interesting right now, just that the talent that's on the market hasn't been available, at least in this quantity and certainly in a lot of cases quality for the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So where do you see the economy going, and how do you see that affecting the SaaS businesses?
It's greatly affecting, but at the same time, it's interesting. We have a business around the globe, US market, Europe market, and APAC market, and they behave differently.
Yes.
So
very different.
I'm actually glad I have 3 regions, and then, I have a way to hedge against each market, right? I think Europe was really tough last year, because of the Ukraine war and everything. The raising cost of electricities and powers and everything makes it really, really hard for their economy, right?
Yes.
And a lot of SaaS companies also suffer from like Europe market, right? And then probably November, December last year, we started seeing huge deceleration of a pipeline in the industry for US market, right? A lot of people is just not buying SaaS solution right now, right? Our CFO even is like, no more new solution, right? I think only thing we bought is probably ChatGPT and Copilot recently, but that's it, right?
Okay.
So you're basically saying, you know what, reduce the number of software in the company. And we reduced from 60 to 130 or something last 3 months or so. And that just keep going, right? And, that's inside of us, but then I'm sure lots of companies doing it, right? And looking at like APAC, I don't feel much of the deceleration, but it's just like the market pie is smaller there, right? They don't pay out a lot for these SaaS companies, right? So each company and country, each country has its own like pros and cons in different states. And then, it's really interesting to run this like a global business. Like, how do you maximize your investment into different regions so that I can get the maximum outcome?
So how do you stay ahead of that as a company and get people to buy? And then the same thing for talent. How are you retaining your team?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is as a messaging, meaning like if it's a downturn, we can say, you know what, CDP can boost your revenue and save the money by consolidating multiple tools.
Sure.
Right. So if you give me $1 million, we're gonna reduce $2 to $3 million of software cost, and we're gonna improve 1% of conversion, which will bring you additional $10 million in revenue, and we can reduce 1% of churn, which will bring in another 10 million. So that's kind of how you convince your customers, right?
That's compelling.
Tie your value with the actual data so that you're convinced that, okay, this is high priority or burning needs for the company, right?
Right.
So previously it's about, okay, provide better experience for the customer, all this. It's a little fluffy message. Now everyone needs this like a money talk, right?
Right.
You pay $1, what's the ROI return, right? That's something you always need to tell.
Is that something that the market is jaded to? Or are they still really accepting of that? Because a lot of times ROI is put out there, but then they don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to prove it, right? So, what's interesting is like, unlike infrastructure software, MarTech is something you can prove the value, right? Okay, you run this campaign through CDP, and those are the revenue you actually get. So that actually helps us because I can say, you know what, you're paying $5 million, but you made $150 million. That feels like cheap investment, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something, we're really focused on the customer success side.
That's good too, because marketing and MarTech, they're used to looking at those types of numbers. They're looking for ROI on campaigns. And so it just makes sense that they would be looking for that. So that's a really good way to position it.
Yeah.
And what about talent? What are you doing to hold on and retain talent?
Yes, I would say right now, there's a lot of talent outside too, right? There's huge layoff going on. So I think I have to be really honest. People are not leaving. We're seeing lowest attrition, because they know there's no job outside, right? I think what's important for us right now is it's uncertain. It's more, I would say, important to show the transparency of what's happening, right? Well, let's accept the fact, U.S. pipeline growth is shrinking. So that's why sometimes we need to make hard decisions on reducing sales capacity, for example.
Sure.
Right. So I think, along the way, we made a lot of tough decisions, but I think the leadership has to describe why in a transparent manner. And then I think, it's important to even tell the bad news, not even like exciting, new logo, everyone. I think good news will fly automatically, bad news is not. And it's important for us right now is to, make it transparent so that, everyone feels like it's a part of the team. Right.
Yeah, that's really important. And being honest about the bad news as well. I think you're right. A lot of people want to hold on to that. And I don't want to tell them. But you're dealing with the humans, and for the most part, grown-up adults who should be able to handle that. And I think that when we're honest and we have those conversations, that they can handle it.
Yeah, you need to balance like data-driven decisions versus your empathy, emotion, right?
Yeah, they can handle bad news, but they can't handle uncertainty near as well. Yeah. So what is one thing that you wish you could go back and tell yourself when you very first started Treasure Data?
I don't know. I'm enjoying, right? So I can tell, I don't know, 10 years before, just enjoy, every day is tough, but I think as long as you can enjoy, you can keep going. And, you get 1% better every day. That compounds, right? You don't have to, make 10% better every day. You just have to be better than yesterday and just keep going. And if you keep going like 10 years, it compounds, right? From zero to $100 million plus. So that's something I can tell to him.
That's great. So why do you do what you do? What is your big why? What gets you up? What gets you excited about Treasure Data and continuing to build and grow?
Yeah, so it's a huge opportunity. We have around 50 to 60 customers in what is called Forbes Global 2000 companies. So it's called G2K, right? It's the largest 2000 companies in terms of the company valuation and revenue, like multiple measures, right? So we only have 50. So we have 1,950 to go.
Wow.
Right?
That's a great goal.
It's like a 40x more. And we already exceeded 100 million.
Wow.
So just with this single product, we have huge opportunity.
Yes.
Right? What if we can expand product portfolio going into different buying center or budget that further increases the TAM, total addressable market we have, right?
Right.
So it's just an opportunity we have that excites me the most. And just statistics numbers, but right now there are 8 billion people on the earth. And there are 4.5 billion people who is internet connected, right?
Wow.
And Treasure Data actually manages around 2 to 3 billion people's data.
That's amazing.
60 to 70% of online population, right? So every single one person works at Treasure Data has an influence to those billions of people every day. And for me as a CEO, obviously has a lot of influence to it, right? We can make billions of people's life easier, safer, more convenient, right? Through the data. So that itself feels like, this is once in a life opportunity and I have to go, right? Yeah. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, that's fantastic. Where can people learn more about you and about Treasure Data online?
Sure. So to learn more about Treasure Data CDP customer data platform, go to www.treasuredata.com. And to get to know more about myself, I'm on LinkedIn. So search Kazuki Otha on LinkedIn and please connect or send a message in. And I also have my personal website linked from LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. And we'll be sure and link all of that in the show notes. Really appreciate you being on the show today. And it's been a great conversation.
Thank you very much for having me, Jeff.
Thanks again, Kaz, for coming on the show and sharing your journey, wisdom, and insights as a founder. You can learn more about Kaz and Treasure Data at treasuredata.com. All of us should be mining the data that we have for more treasure because it's in there. And they help us do that. It's really, really cool. All links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to check out our new YouTube channel as well. Podcast episodes, SaaS training, shorts, outtakes, funny stuff, and more. Everyone who subscribes this week gets a portable solar-powered speaker for impromptu dance parties at the beach park or maybe in your own home office. Yeah, it sounds like a prime deal, doesn't it? Well, join us next time on our SaaS Fuel Expert series for Carlos Antequera. He is the CEO and co-founder of Novel Capital. It's a fintech that is changing the way startup founders grow and fund their businesses. He's a former exited founder, angel investor, and he has great insights into funding your business creatively and keeping your equity, something that I tell everybody hold on to. And it's a good conversation. And next Tuesday, a week from today, we have Mike Ryan, founder and CEO of SpiceX, where he helps businesses who struggle with applying technology advances to consumer-facing problems create great outcomes. And he does that through low-code, no-code applications, and kind of like Canva put graphic design in the hands of the masses, he puts code in the hands of the masses. So I will see you then. Happy Prime Day. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.